Hello, everyone. This is Tony Miracker, and just wanted to welcome everybody to our January meeting for section SMPTE Toronto. Our topic is remote production workflows in the broadcast and post-production arena. We have some exciting news. First of all, before I go any further, I do want to wish everybody a happy New Year's. I think we're still allowed to do that, I think, in January, but there might be some protocol as to not being able to do that. But I'm going to wish everybody a happy New Year's anyway. Things that for us, having things come closer to something back to normal with this trying time that we are in. We have our first sponsor for in our virtual space. So for us, we're excited because this is a move into normalcy, can I say? So really excited that LiveView is on board with us to sponsor this event, and please check them out. Mark will be speaking later on as our third presenter. So we're really excited about this. Other news, again, Troy English from Ross Video is our new 2022 and 2023 Canadian Regional Governor. So he is on board as a new representative between the sections and Home Office. So we welcome Troy on board, and we're excited to have him as part of our group, our board, and with SMPTE Home Office. Tonight, again, post-production and broadcast-related remote production workflows arranged by Roy Folkman, Peter Armstrong, and myself. Each will have various roles this evening. I'll be moderating and will be at the controls. Roy will be managing the question chat room. So please drop notes in either the question or chat room. Peter Armstrong will be playing as backup in case my connection to the World Wide Web disappears, and Peter will take over. We'll have questions at the very end of all three presentations. So please add your questions in the Zoom chat room or question box, if I'm not mistaken. They're both there. So there's a saying, and you know what, I've heard this a couple of times, and I end up saying it a lot as well, is world events have been known to cause drastic changes in the way one normally execute tasks. When we have wars, the price of oil goes up. Those are things, and it causes us to do various different things, whether it's driving cars, things of that nature. Likewise with climate change, there's drought, we're flooding, and there's areas where we need to change our normalcy as to what we do every day. Closer to our industry, if you remember the earthquake in 2011 and in Japan, the monsoon tidal wave, it flooded the Sony tape manufacturing plant, and that in itself created a lack of videotape supplies, which then in the broadcast and post-production world specifically required some changes to the way that things get delivered. And so with no media tape to record to, everybody was forced into the whole mezzanine files, digital files, and a lot of people were dipping their toe into it, but it wasn't really a area where everybody had bought into. But there's a classic example where things turned on their head almost overnight. Likewise, COVID changed a whole bunch of things. And again, in our space, it caused everybody to be entertained to working remotely. I've heard many stories where editors and colorists would leave their facility with a computer monitor under their arm and took it home. And they connected to the office, and that in itself created a whole bunch of new technical issues. But eventually, at the end of the day, everybody got to work at home, which is something that I guess everybody may have wanted to do. But, you know, but not everything was there. And tonight, what we're going to talk about is, you know, things that spun out of this. And, you know, there's a lot of companies that actually, you know, took this opportunity and made various products that is a bit of a game changer for these various industry outlets. So presentation tonight is going to be from Dennis Rose, Chief Revenue Officer, SohoNet. We got Mo McKibben, Head of Production Operations and Technology for Moxion. And we got Mark Moore, Sales Manager for Canada for LiveU. So I'm going to introduce Dennis. Again, Dennis is from SohoNet. Dennis, and I'll read his bio. It's been on the lengthy side, but let me go for it. Dennis is responsible for SohoNet's revenue generation strategy and its execution by the SohoNet sales and marketing team. He previously led delivery sales at Deluxe Entertainment, built Brightco's online video business in Asia Pacific and Japan, led Citrix Systems Latin America region, and then its Asia Pacific and Japan business, including expansion into China. Dennis has lived or worked abroad for more than 20 years and has a deep interest in helping film, television, and new media production, post-production houses, and VFX studios expand their storytelling deliverables to global audiences. A frequent speaker and panelist at industry events, Dennis has spoken at and participated on or led panels at Broadcast Asia, CASBAA, which I think is the cable satellite organization in Asia, FMX. I don't know that one, so Dennis, you're going to have to help me out on that one. And been interviewed on CNBC, Squawk Box, Bloomberg, CCTV, Channel News Asia, and other media channels. He is based in the US and holds an MBA from Boston College and a graduate of Stanford University Executive Program National, and recently completed an executive education program at the Judge Business School at the University of Cambridge. Dennis lives for family time, the South Pacific, world cinema, and great discussions over a glass of wine. I hope I did okay on that one, Dennis. If I can get you to spark up your camera. And you may steal my presentation so that you can present your slide deck, and you can take it away.
That sounds great. Thank you, Tony, very much. And congratulations to Troy on his appointment as well. Let me see if I can, it says I will message on my screen. Tony says I can't share my screen while you are sharing yours. So maybe if you
Sure, okay.
Go off.
That is, who can share? All panelists, got it. So let me undo mine. There we go.
I will give mine a temp. There we go. Put that on presentation mode. Wow, if I had known you were going to read that, I would have copied Mo. Look, you hear Mo's bio. She nailed it in, I think, 2 sentences. So I apologize it was so long, but I'm really so happy to be here tonight. SMPTE is a great organization. Our CTO, Ben Roeder, our VP of Engineering, Pat Sumby, Rick Cedarland from our Vancouver office have been active in SMPTE for many years. And we always look at it as a great opportunity to learn and also to share things that we know. So tonight, I want to share a couple of things that we have learned over the last 22 months as we've helped professionals in the industry with remote workflows. For those of you who are not so familiar with SohoNet, it's actually a London-based company. It's nearly 25 years old this year. And really, we're just extremely focused, very much like Moxion and LiveView, on helping media and entertainment organizations from pre-production through production and post-production and distribution to help them craft their stories and deliver great content and great projects to consumers and people all over the world. And we work with lots of different types of storytellers. We do quite a bit actually now with advertising. The last several years, folks who are doing TV commercials and those who cut them have been adopting remote workflows, of course, no different than feature film crews and episodic TV projects. We do a lot of studios, and it seems like every time we turn around this year, somebody's building a new studio or repurposing a warehouse or distribution center to make room to create more great content. A lot of them across Canada, including Weymouth Whites and of course Pinewood and Atlanta and many in London and LA. We provide connections to so that they can have great productions and then move those files quickly to their post-production partners. So we do quite a bit, and it's fun. It's a great experience working with professionals like yourselves. We have over 500 customers in total, and we've been lucky and privileged to work with production companies and post-production partners that have gained recognition through BAFTA and Golden Globes and Oscars, as you can see here. And then along the way, due to a lot of customer-driven, meaning you, customer-driven suggestions about how to even further improve our product because of its use in homes during COVID, we won an Engineering Emmy Award and also an honorable mention in the HPA Tech Awards. And then I shouldn't forget also the Cinematic Audio Society awarded us with a Lumiere Award as well the year before last. So when you think about SohoNet, any of you who have known us for quite some time probably think of us because of the network that we built, and we still are that company. But shortly I'll tell you what else we've done. The network really started back in London on Dean Street and Water Street and Greek Street in the middle of Soho 25 years ago when 4 post houses decided to stop doing sneakernet up and down the wet sidewalks of Soho, carrying disk drives and connected their buildings. And that literally is how the company began. We connected 4 post partners in London. And then, of course, as you can see in that graphic on the right-hand side, it's spread all over the world, including Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, other locations in Canada, and really all the epicenters of the world war where great stories are crafted into film and TV. SMN is a private network. We work with 52 fiber providers all over the world, and we've built a network that connects more than 500 studios and post houses and allows them to share files back and forth so that they never have to touch the public internet. It's studio approved, the network. Every single major studio uses the SMN, and we're very grateful and very privileged to say that. It's got ultra low latency, sub 100 millisecond experiences. We can also provision ultra low latency for remote Wacom tablet artists. And then, of course, we monitor it through 2 massive network operations centers out of the UK and out of California, where we monitor everyone's circuits and all the firewalls that we manage so that studios and post houses can really focus on what they do best, and that is craft great stories, and so that they don't have to worry so much about what's happening on a switch or a router at 2 a.m. in the morning. And then we also allow them to scale up and down as workloads change, especially in the creative agency space where we help studios make and process their TV commercials. That work comes and goes. On feature films, of course, it could be 6 to 8 months. On big tent poles, maybe 12 to 14 months. And then on episodic television, it could be 2 or 3 months. So the crews are busy, and then all of a sudden they're not. So sometimes what they like to do is buy a very skinny network connection, 100 megabits or a gigabit, and then have the ability to burst it up to 2, 5, 10, 20 gigabits per second, and then dial it right back down, 8 hours later after that payload or VFX plate says going up into Amazon or Azure. I mentioned security before, and we also do, through COVID, we helped a lot of studios move their workforces to working from home by provisioning more VPNs and more internet to support those workflows going to homes. And then when you work with SoHoNet, you quickly find out that if anything does go amiss or you have questions, our tech support, we answer the phones with network engineers, not call centers, not intermediaries. It is us. We do it 7 hours, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And so if you're shooting at night on a second unit shot, or as many of our animation customers do, they work well late into the night. If anything is needed, we're there. And we generally answer the phone in 60 to 90 seconds. We truly deliver white glove service, and that's what we are. We're a managed service company for the media and entertainment industry. So I mentioned the network, which goes all over the world, but about 7, 8 years ago, we started building some solutions that run across our network, across the SoHoNet Media Network, and then later took those solutions and started moving them to run just on good internet as well. In the upper left-hand corner, you see file transfer and storage. So we have a couple of solutions there. One is cloud-based storage, where we can put you into our cloud storage, or we have a great partner in the company of RStore, where you can use cloud-based storage to put archive or have redundant copies, or even right off the production set, immediately move assets to the cloud for a backup copy. We have Fastlane, which is our burstable direct connects that allow a studio to connect into AWS, Google, Azure, SoftLayer, Alibaba, and other public cloud services. We see a lot of that, of course, in the visual effects community where rendering is done in the cloud, but we also see it where there's cloud-based solutions that are leveraging either Bebop or Teradici or RGS technologies to have basically cloud-based workstations for editing. And then below, we have our collaboration products. We partner with Moxion, and Moxion is superb. They are the best immediate daily system and more. They've worked on so many great productions, and Mo will share a little bit about what Moxion does. They have really leadership functionality and offline review. And then we partner with them for real-time review because sometimes you can't be together, can't get the schedules right. So offline is really a best fit for that. And when you can be together, even if you're remote and you want to do a real-time review of editing or even a pre-production review, or it could be a color review, a sound review, the Clearview family allows you to have that over-the-shoulder experience, even if one person's sitting in London and the other sitting in Vancouver or Toronto. I'm going to advance my slide. Let's see. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about Clearview, working from home. On the left, you have an artist who is, during COVID or even before that, working from home, and generally has their kit there with some sort of video source. Could be a Flame Station or an Avid or Premiere, anything that basically would output video. You can do it through HDMI or SDI. SDI, of course, is great for greater color range. HDMI is often used, and we have connectors on both on the back of Clearview Flex boxes so that you can use HDMI to show your bins and your libraries and basically your whole editing software interface. Because sometimes you're working with an assistant editor and and both want to be able to see the interface. When working with a producer or a DP or a director, maybe all they want to see is to have the asset pushed to them, and pushed in a way that's frame accurate and color accurate, and has a choice of sound. Clearview Flex, you can do stereo or 5.1, and uses the SMPTE standard for 5.1 surround sound. And then on the older brother product, which I'll talk about, Clearview Pivot. Today we have 16 channels of uncompressed audio, so you can do 7.1 work, or we're working on right now to deliver Dolby Atmos on the Clearview Pivot platform as well for a full Atmos review session capability. And then, of course, on the producer at home in the upper right-hand corner, that person can be on really any type of device. They can view the asset that you're streaming to them in real time with only 2 to 4 frames of delay when running on the SMN network, and 6 to 8 frames of delay when running on good public internet. And they can watch on a MacBook or a desktop or an iPad or an Android tablet or phone or an Apple TV. And when they watch on Apple TV, that's how we deliver the 5.1 surround sound. We worked on many episodic productions over the last several years where a producer wanted to have his team or her team gather and then have a surround sound experience while they were doing a review. And then over at the office, I just mentioned this Apple TV capability. Excuse me. And then we also have a new member of the Clearview Flex family coming. It's been soft launched already this month, and that supports HDR on a regular internet connection. You don't even need the SMN to do that. So really, we're just even 6 years into the product, and that's when the product was developed 6 years ago, well before COVID. And if you think back, the reason we did it then was because there was a lot of work that was being done remotely because of tax credits. So production was happening in one location. Studio execs, of course, were back either in California or London or somewhere else. And that was the remote solution. Like, who would ever thought the world would want a remote solution other than people who were leveraging tax credits. But as Tony said, from telling the story about the tsunami hitting the Sony tape plant, it turned everything on its head. And I remember March 13th in 2020, nearly 2 years ago. I was in London at the time, and the phones lit up because that's when the travel restrictions started and the government started rolling out formal COVID protocols. And it's changed. And I've recently been in London, Los Angeles, probably 4 times since July. Going back to London this weekend. I've been in Atlanta, and I'm hearing the same and seeing the same everywhere. And that is, people generally have started to come back, but it's not like before. And I think everybody's just accepted we're going to have a hybrid work model. So I think remote collaboration is pretty much here to stay. And Live View and Maxion and Sohanet, of course, will continue to innovate and bring some solutions to that. If I look from the office, where the actual editing station is sitting in an office, the artist or VFX Soup or whoever it may be at home or in their flat, and then come in to the application that's running on a server at the studio office in a rack or someplace, just using Teradici or HBRGS, but basically having a remote capability with a Zero client at their home, as an example. And it's very simple to do. And the stream that gets pushed back through public internet to the artists at home is coming through at either 420 on Clearview Flex or 422 on the new Glow model. You can kind of become an 8-bit or 10 bits. It's coming encrypted, and it's coming frame and color accurate. And it's a great solution and a fairly low cost solution for enabling your team to continue the work from home. And then, as I mentioned before, others that when they come in and want to view from home, if they just have a normal laptop at home, all they need is a browser. There's no plugins. There's no software that they have to install on laptops or desktops. The only software app you need to install is once, and it's free, and that's when you want to watch it on the Apple TV or on your iPhone. And that's a quick download, and that's available in all the app stores. And And when they have these sessions, the initiator of the session has an interface in our software GUI that basically looks like you're sending an email, and it's a secure email with an encrypted link that's time-based. It lives a certain amount of time, and you can configure that. And it can be used once, or you can configure that as well. And they get an email to join a session. They click two things, and then it comes up on their screen, and then all of a sudden you're focused on what you really want to do, and that is collaborate and tell a great story. What makes Clearview Flex so popular? It's very easy to use. You unbox it in about 2 minutes. There's a cable that goes to your internet router. There's your SDI cable that goes to your video source, and there's a power cable. It's really that easy. You plug it in, and then we join you on the phone, and we can set up your firewall for you, help you with that. And you can be operational with Clearview Flex in about 15 to 20 minutes. The interface is so easy. It was really designed for creatives, not for technical people, because there's so many freelancers, of course, in the industry. So it's a very teachable product. You can learn how to use it in about 10 minutes. And after a couple sessions, you realize it just works. It's better and superior to a software-based solution for real time, because there's a GPU inside the box, and that does the real-time compression, and that's what helps us achieve the latency minimization. We have servers at POPs all over the world that measure all the telemetry, and we can't see your asset that you're streaming, but if you have any trouble during the session, our tech support team can join you and see what's happening right down to the last mile and diagnose and fix the session, and then get you on your way and back at work. And then you can have two form factors. I think there's some pictures here. So the original product came out in a nice 19-inch rack mount. So it's half depth. But when people started working at home during COVID, they started saying, well, I'd like something a little quieter, especially if they were sound mixers or sound editors. And for that, we developed the fanless model, which is a nice, attractive black desktop profile box. That is super quiet, doesn't have any fans. It's all heat dissipation from the bottom, and same functionality as the rack mount unit. So again, we innovated. And in fact, during that time in COVID, we used to have low, medium, high granular controls for video quality. We then offered super low, which was a 1 megabit push, and then super high, which was 12. Now we've increased that to 15. So we made it very workable and reliable to work even on home internet that was a little bit dodgy. And so, and then even did small things like put in 100-foot long Ethernet cables, because a lot of times where artists work in their homes isn't exactly next to the internet router. So that's SoHoNet's way. We always want to make it easy for the artists and the studio people to get their work done. For the presenter, I'm explaining the email interface already, the choice of color depths, choice of sound controls, and for remote viewer to not have to sync something over to your machine, to not have to do a plug-in is so much easier than the way it was done 5 to 10 years ago. It's a real-time stream that comes to essentially any device, and we find we have now about 1,200 Flexes services live in the industry, and we just find that the ease of use is really what keeps people, even when they move to another production. They'll call us and say, I want one of those magical boxes for the new project I'm working on. Key features I've talked about in terms of low latency. I do want to mention that it initially came out, I think, with 10 viewers, then we went up to 20. We're next month going to make it 30 viewers, and then with on our new model called Glow with HDR, you can do 40 users. We actually have, with one of the major studios, tested 50 users, and it works. For now, we're doing 30 users and then 40 on the Glow box. And as again, I'll just emphasize, it's a fully managed service. And then in terms of security, all those major studios have reviewed it. Some of you in Toronto who use it, you probably know this. And of course, it's we have ISE service that we can track with it every month, test our security. It's air gap, so unlike software-only solutions for real-time collaboration, our software is not sitting on a box touching the public internet. And that's an extra level of security that's really important. And it's got advanced AES encryption. And then, as I mentioned, the one-time invites with a timer. We also have watermarking that's configurable, and you can even turn it off if you want to. By default, it's on, but the watermarking of the assets when you're doing remote reviews is not a good idea. And of course, some studios require that. And then lastly, you can see we enable you to disable screen grabs from iOS devices. Now here comes the bigger brother. Clearview Pivot is a 4K HDR 8, 10, or 12-bit remote collaboration product. And as I mentioned today, with 16 channels of audio, we're working on delivering Dolby Atmos audio to it. And this is a managed service that requires kit on both ends. So if you're doing a pivot to pivot session, it has to run over the SoHoNet Media Network because you're pushing about 400 to 600 megabits per second. But we do have a receive-only pivot model that's called Pivot Lite. And that's meant we have a lot of producers and directors at home and artists at home. There's a high-end colorist, a gentleman who works for a London-based color studio, but he lives in Belgium. And he has a Pivot Lite at his house. So his coloring workstation is actually resident in the London office, but it can then push back to him to his Pivot Lite, and then he has a calibrated monitor sitting in his house connected to the Pivot Lite box. And here's an example. Here's an example of the director at home. So the pivot at the source can push to 5 locations. I hesitate to say 5 users because it could be multiple users in a screening room or an office, but 5 different locations can receive the stream simultaneously in 4K HDR. And again, it's on our network about 2 to 4 frames of delay. So everybody's seeing it in real time. And then here's a situation where you might have one person that has a Pivot Lite in their home with an SDI connection going to a calibrated monitor, but somebody else might be on the road or traveling on vacation and wants to watch the stream coming in through just a normal desktop or MacBook. You need a Chrome browser. Firefox also works, but the only thing about Firefox, of course, is it does 8-bit video, not 10-bit at the browser level. And we will have Safari. Safari, of course, had hung on kind of tree hugging for a long time on not supporting the VP9 codec. Last year, they announced they finally will. So we'll be adding that as a supported browser to Clearview Flex. But in this manner, you can have a video asset come out, split the stream, and one going out through the pivot box to a Pivot Lite in 4K HDR, and the other going out through 420, 8-bit or 10-bit color chroma. And then here's a remote coloring workflow where you've got a color suite at the office over here. Maybe you've got Resolve. You've got the artist working from home. The artist is working through like TerraDT connection to work their Resolve. And then the asset, as it's being graded, would push out through an SDI cable to a pivot box back across our network. And then we bring it down through the internet back to the artist's house, connecting to a Pivot Lite box, which is connected to a calibrated monitor at their home to give them the confidence that the work that they're doing is accurate and to their satisfaction. And then lastly, Clearview Pivot. Again, we've got some great things coming for it. Error correcting code is coming for both for Pivot. For Clearview Flex. We also have integration coming with calendars like G Suite and Outlook. Because if you're doing 3 mornings in a row of a color grading session, and you have to invite the same 3 or 4 people to it, why not just set that up once, like a 3-day recurring meeting, and do it through your calendar? So a lot of these nice touches, are evolving, and most always they're coming from customer feedback and requests. And then key features, I've talked about Pivot, but some other things that are coming in terms of Pivot. We've made enhancements to the scheduler and the call manager within Pivot. It's much easier to do this than to do an old TVIP session. Compared to TVIPs, there's a one-time setup that we do with you. We store commonly called screening rooms or studios that are remote, or users that are remote. We store them in a directory. This means that unlike TVIPs, you don't have to do a resetup or reinitiate the setup just because on Monday you're using screening room A and then Tuesday it's busy, so you have to switch to screening room B. It's one and done with Clearview Pivot. It's a real time saver. So there you have it. I mean, the Clearview Flex and Clearview Pivot remote collaboration services, well established in the industry. You used in everything from pre-production to editorial to color to sound mixing to finishing and also VFX reviews. And we're really proud of the adoption. And for those of you from SMPTE who use our product, thank you. And if you do use our product, please keep your suggestions coming, because that's how we make the product better. Tony, thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about Clearview.
Alrighty, I will spark up my camera here, and I will make sure I've got the proper screen here to share. And yeah, so next up is Mo McKibben, head of post-production, head of production operations and technology. And let me just advance to the next slide. Mo serves as the head of customer success at Moxion, where she coaches production and post-production teams on cloud-based remote production workflows using Moxion. So Mo, if you want to spark up, and I think sidekick is James, and I didn't introduce James, and I noticed on my notes here that I'm not sure that I wrote down James's last name. So if you can introduce James, that would be great as well. So Mo, you can take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So James Parsons here is also my team member. He is also on the customer success team, a product specialist. And yes, I'm the head of customer success at Moxion. And what James is going to be doing today, James, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Mo, if you can spark up your camera, that'd be cool.
Certainly.
Here we are.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah, so we're just really excited to show you around and talk about some of the great remote production and post-production workflows that Moxion helps facilitate. So James today is going to be assisting me by playing two roles. He's going to play the video assist operator to show off our camera to cloud workflow. And then also he's going to be our editorial team member today to show up some of our live production reviews. So I'm going to go ahead and steal the screen away.
Hopefully you can do that. If not, I'll stop sharing.
I do have those powers.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so just to introduce Moxion, Moxion is an award-winning all-in-one tool for really the whole production lifecycle. So from pre-production planning to post-production, and then also finishing reviews and release. And so when we talk about using Moxion for remote production workflows, we're really talking about 4 different remote production and post-production workflows that Moxion can help facilitate, from both production to all the way down to finishing review. And so these workflows are for live action production, or what we call MX production. This includes live streaming from camera, also our award-winning Immediates, which is our camera to cloud technology that works by taking QTake from the camera to bring in metadata-rich proxies directly from the camera to cloud to begin reviewing and editing right away to deliver really lightning-fast editorial turnaround. And then we have our foundational feature set, which we call MX Foundation. And this can be used for dailies and cut review. Where we really shine here is when it comes to quality, because we support codecs way beyond H.264. We also support H.265, ProRes files to really showcase dailies and cuts in the quality that they're meant to be seen. And then also additionally, because we transcode to DNX 36 or 45 on upload, it's incredibly easy to download those MXF files to bring into an Avid timeline. You can also merge ALEs alongside any uploaded assets to search and organize uploaded assets by metadata, making really easy for digital asset management in the post-production workflow as well. Then continuing into our post-production workflows with MX Post, Moxion also has audio conferencing built in into synced playback of both live streams and recorded assets, which actually facilitates a live editorial review, which we're going to see a little bit today. And then last but not least, we have our color and finishing review, or MX Finish, which can also be used for screeners, our secure cloud-based screeners. And so this is the workflow is what productions use to send HDR10 and Dolby Vision full-length cuts of the film for commenting and collaboration. And our pioneering Dolby Vision cloud-based review technology has really opened up the remote finishing workflow for productions in a way that hasn't really existed before. So just to take a look at how all of these flow together in some diagrams. So we see the camera going directly into the cloud to the editorial team, which is facilitating our MX production and MX foundational workflows. You can see the editor is working away and then brings it back into the cloud for review. And then it opens up a little bit using our MX Post workflows. So you can see that somebody who is reviewing as the host is facilitating a session in the cloud, and we can actually bring in all of these different people together in this synced reviewed session to collaborate in real time on any assets that are uploaded into Moxion or streamed from something like Avid or Adobe Premiere as well. And so each workflow and product feature pieced together is what creates this full production workflow platform that productions can use even as early as pre-production. We've definitely seen it being used sometimes for remote casting sessions or storyboarding, but mostly we start at the production with our camera to cloud technology and streaming with immediate dailies, but then also bringing it down into the production lifecycle, into cut review, and then even live editing for post-production and finishing review due to our cloud-based Dolby Vision technology and secure cloud-based screeners. Also, just a little bit on who is Moxion for. It's really kind of for everyone. So it's really built to empower every team in the production lifecycle. Moxion really solves problems that are unique to every role. So production managers can keep everyone on the production team in the loop of what's happening on set without needing to be there. Post-production supervisors and coordinators have oversight of everything in the post-production lifecycle to make sure that that's running smoothly. Editors are able to share and review cuts with creatives and executives with ease. And the collaboration features that we have, like commenting and being able to export those comments and set up review and approval processes using a series of folders and content sharing, makes it really, really easy to facilitate that review. VFX people can use our metadata and shot grid integrations, making it really easy to seamlessly work between these tools with the same data set. Colorists trust you can trust executives and creatives are reviewing colors as intended with Dolby Vision. And we also have this ability to standardize brightness across iOS devices, which we'll talk about a little bit when we jump into the product and see some of these workflows in action. And then of course, executives love us just because it's like a simple and polished way to review production. It's a nice, easy, click and review sort of experience, no frills, easy to do, which is why post-production teams love us too, because they don't have to field a lot of questions. And creatives obviously also love us because they can collaborate closely with editors from anywhere in the world to really see their vision realized. So just in other words, pretty much everyone in the entire production and post-production process can benefit from the Moxion workflows. And so we are going to jump into the product in just a moment to see how all of these workflows elegantly fit together. But before I do, I just want to take a moment to talk about something that's really important when we talk about remote production workflows, and that's security. So obviously for remote production, there's an additional concern about keeping content secure during post-production and production workflows. So it's really important that Moxion is just to be best in class in security. We have anti-piracy features like digital rights management, which is going to block out screenshots or screen recording on Safari or any iOS devices. We also have dynamic burn-in and forensic watermarking. And then we also have very granular access controls, including granular permission Moxion. So I'm going to jump to the product now, and we're just going to see some of these workflows in action. Oh, you know what? I'm going to jump back, and I got locked out by one of our security features. So MFA is also really important. So we're all seeing Moxion security in action right now. All right. So what you are hopefully looking at right now is the Moxion inbox. And so this is the first thing that anyone's going to see when they log into Moxion. And this is really where post-production teams or studio execs can review any of the content that has been shared. So from the executive and the studio perspective, they can actually filter these through any productions to see content shared across all of the productions under a studio. And then they can either view this content in the browser like we're doing this right now, but we also have an Apple TV app and also iOS devices, which is especially great for reviewing content in HDR10 or Dolby Vision for our finishing review workflows, or if they're going to be viewing our secure cloud-based screeners. So I just want to show, because I've got James here now, and he is currently streaming from a camera. So James, I don't know if you want to show that you're streaming from your camera or talk a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I've got here my Q-Take setup. I might have two different audio tracks coming if we're previewing.
I just muted mine, so.
There we go. So I've got my Q-Take rig set up here with my camera connected directly to my Mac via Q-Take. And additionally, I've got Q-Take server set up to receive the clips as we're shooting the proxies. And we also are using the Q-Take Cloud live stream to tap in and bring that live feed into Moxion as well.
Yeah, so we're viewing this right from the inbox. It's also possible to view, just to show, this is a stream that's coming in. Oh, actually, I don't know if you're connected yet. Oh, yeah, you are. This is a stream that's coming in from Adobe Premiere. It's also possible to send an NDI stream in from Avid. And then the last thing that we're able to view in this inbox is just any recorded assets as well. So if you're uploading content like for dailies, or if you are uploading HDR content or UHD content for finishing review, all of this is plays back in the Moxion inbox, which is a very seamless and simple experience for anyone on the executive side who really just kind of wants like a click a button and play approach on things like the Apple TV or any sort of devices. And so I think I might have mentioned this before, but I also just want to reiterate that Moxion supports playback for uploaded assets in UHD, so 4K and 2K, also HD in 1080p and 720p. You can see these options here. We also support HDR10 and Dolby Vision, although right now I'm in Chrome and HDR is not supported in Chrome. So if you are going to be using Moxion for the HDR finishing review workflows, that's definitely better in either the Safari browser with an HDR compatible Mac, or if you are going to be using the iOS devices or the Apple TV to review that content. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump into the folder because this is really where the work happens and the workflows start. So inside the folder is where these assets are uploaded for review, or live assets are created to stream directly from the camera or from an editing bay. And it's also where immediates, which is our award-winning camera to cloud workflow technology, come into Moxion from our QTake integration. And if you are going to be using the immediates workflow, I do want to point out that it's really super easy copy and paste of an API key to integrate with QTake. Also, anyone from my team is available 24/7 to help and jump on a call. James can attest to that. Happens quite frequently.
Always happy to set up.
Yes, absolutely. So in this folder, I can actually, once again, see the live stream that has been coming in from the camera from James. I can also see the live stream coming in from Adobe Premiere. These are where the streams are set up. But another thing that we're going to see in just a moment to come in is our immediates. And again, with our camera to cloud remote production workflow, inside the folders where immediates can be viewed, and we're going to demonstrate this in just a moment. But this makes it possible to view the live stream in tandem with the recorded take. In fact, when we pull in immediates, we're also going to pull in the metadata for the ins and the outs of the action and cuts. So therefore, when you're reviewing, you can actually only view the relevant action from the take, which especially speeds up a lot of time, especially for editors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let James talk a little bit about what he's doing. And we are going to send in an immediate into this folder now, so we can see how things can come in directly from the camera and into the cloud, into Moxion, so we can immediately start working with them. James, do you want to take it away and describe?
Yeah, happy to take over from here. So as everyone can see from my live feed, I have my camera set up with the subject in the middle. I have my slate ready, and everyone can see what a lovely overcast afternoon in Auckland, New Zealand looks like. So what I'll do here, just in QTake, we'll do camera speed, bring in our slate, mark that as an endpoint. We'll perform a little bit of action, mark an out point, and recording. Hey, he didn't fall off this time. That recording has now been finished on my side. I have the original asset, which is now saved, as well as the proxy, which I'm recording in 720p, which through QTake server is now being pushed directly up to Moxion.
Yes, so we can actually start to see this processing asset preparing. And so what it's doing in this preparation process is, I think I mentioned this before, but we transcode to, it's possible to transcode to DNX 36 or 45 on upload. Also, it transcodes to a bunch of different playback options, like the various different resolutions, and all of the things that are happening now while it's processing, as it's coming directly in the camera into the cloud, are all happening behind the scenes. And it is taking a little bit longer than usual, but hopefully we're going to see some momentum. James, I know you've been in the mix of things. Do you know of anything that might potentially be slowing this down on the technical side?
If anything, on a technical level, it may simply be I'm in New Zealand and have 3 streams running at a time. So
okay.
It might just be the limitation of being on the other side of the world at the moment.
So this is real world problems of internet and bandwidth that frequently happen on set and our own personal internet connections. But it did start to move, I feel like, as soon as we started talking about it.
As is tradition.
As is tradition. So a couple of things to point out here. I'm going to go ahead and play this back. But if you see this blue line here, this is what it marked in the metadata is the ins and the outs for actions and cut. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. My action is highlighted. Ooh, I have my sound off. So I'm gonna play that again. Oh, maybe I still have my sound off. I think there we go.
Bringing up slate.
All right. And so that is watching everything from action and cut. If I wanted to watch the whole take, I could just turn this off and watch it as it continues to go from the
Cam's
very
here.
beginning.
Bring in our slate.
And then another thing I do want to point out is because I had the ability to transcode to DNX on as this uploaded, I can actually just download any of these MXF files. So it makes it really easy to bring that directly into an Avid timeline. So if I wanted to start editing right away, maybe to just do like a rough cut to show the director where my head's at or what I'm thinking, I can pull these down, do a really, really quick edit, and then have something to share with the director right away. So actually that brings us to the second part of this workflow in our QTake integration, which is sending things back to set. So I've pre-uploaded a few assets here, but if I did a cut, I wanted to share it with the director on set, I could go to any one of these assets and go to send to QTake. And then I'm gonna go ahead and send this to, James, is it the dot or is it just James?
It'll be the second one there.
The
That's
second
the one.
one. All right, I'm going to send this to James. I'm going to send him a message that says, here's a cut from today's shots. And then James is going to have this delivered in QTake. Now, I will say we usually show QTake and how it appears in QTake, but QTake and Zoom are not particularly best friends, and it shows a little bit of a flicker, but you know what, actually, James, I think I do think it's probably a good idea to just kind of show the notification come in. So do you mind sharing your screen just briefly, and we'll just prepare everyone emotionally for the flicker, so we can show how the two systems just work really well together?
Yeah, can do. Let me just bring back up my QTake on my side, and we'll grab that clip. Okay. It looks like, unfortunately, it's having a bit of trouble actually capturing this window.
Okay.
It's come up on my side in QTake with my drop down, a notification 1 with the Moxion logo showing the message that Mo's just sent. When I click load, it will load it in the secondary window in QTake, so not necessarily the live one, just in playback. And on my side, I can play back that clip.
Awesome. Well, that was a wonderful description of what happened in QTake. But that is just one way that Moxion speeds up that remote production workflow, especially on the post-production side, in terms of being able to really speed up that editorial turnaround, and really even deliver cuts back to set for the director to review before you even stop shooting. And so then moving down into that production workflow for dailies and cuts, I do want to show up a couple of features that really make our foundational dailies and cuts workflow pop. So I think I mentioned this before when we were talking about immediates, but I'll show it again because it's a little bit more clear. So it is possible to pull in the action ins and outs from the camera. So when reviewing dailies and cuts, or reviewing dailies, you can save yourself a whole bunch of time by only reviewing the intended action and not all of the setup and teardown that happens in between shots. A couple of other things that are super helpful on the post-production workflow side of things is that we also support sub-clipping. So you can even mark the ins and outs of certain cuts on your own assets to create a brand new trimmed asset that is trimmed to exactly what you want to showcase. The other thing I do want to point out that I think is unique to Moxion is we have these really strong metadata capabilities. So as soon as the immediates come in from the camera into the cloud, we actually also pull in all of the metadata that comes in with every shot. And all of this metadata is also instantly searchable. So if right now I have a tag that pulls in anything that has sunglasses. And so this feature is pulling in this asset that has sunglasses in it. I'm going to clear this out though for now, just to show some of the other preset metadata filters. So for example, if you wanted to sort things by shoot day, or if you were working on something more episodic and you wanted to filter this by episodes and scenes, these metadata search filters really create sort of an on-demand folder structure or on-demand views to organize all of your assets based off of metadata, which also makes it really great for editorial digital asset management, or just, organizing your assets, for anything like that. So, and then because of our flexible folder structures, I also want to point out that everything in the production workflow for Moxion, it's all mostly the same UI with the exception of our audio conferencing, which we'll talk about shortly. But it really is just organized into different folders that you can use for things like commenting channels or content channels, or you can create private folders for things like director's cuts, and restricted folders or anything like that. And because of our granular permissions, it creates these little private access groups using folders, and also by moving things and managing assets in between folders. It is a way that you can move content in between folders to facilitate a review and approval workflow as well. But also probably the biggest, I think, eye-opener on our dailies and cuts workflow is simply the quality of review. I've mentioned this a few times, but just to jump in and show you some things. We support multiple different playback resolutions, including ultra high def and 4K. We also support different bit rates as well. And there's a few other things too that we do. We support 5.1 audio. And also it's possible to force HDR playback for finishing reviews, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in the finishing review workflow. I am going to jump into our third post-production workflow, which we've been calling internally MX Post. So let's just say we've been reviewing cuts inside of this folder, and what we want to do is we want to sync up on a live editing session. So this is where we're going to move into our live editorial workflow. So the first thing I'm going to do is jump in and steal one of these live assets, because we do want to see the live asset from the editing bay. And I'm going to just create a new playlist. We'll just call this January 19th review. And then now that's in a playlist that we can actually spin up into a live session. But there may be a couple of other things that I want in this live session as well, and not just the live stream. So for example, if I want to add a uploaded asset, maybe I have uploaded the cut ahead of time and we want to see the previous version next to the streaming version to see them sort of back to back, I can add an uploaded cut. Other things that I can add to review is I can also add PDFs. So Moxion supports all sorts of different uploaded assets. So that includes things like PDFs if you wanted to put the script in there for review. And it also supports audio files. So I'm going to jump in and find audio and look at this. So if you wanted to add some scoring next to this and see how that works. So I've got this nice little collection of assets for review. So, we've been talking and doing some remote editorial workflows, and then we've just decided we all need to get in the room and spin up a session and just start talking in real time. So what I can do is I can just create a new room and select the playlist that I just created, the January 19th review. So you can see my live asset, my uploaded asset, my PDF script, and also my sound file. And then I'm just gonna add, James to this review and perhaps myself to this review so that we can, I'll just add a few people. And you can also add whole groups and teams to reviews as well. And then I'm just going to start this session. Now I do want to point out, I can save this if you want to prep a session that maybe you have as like a regular session and just prep the session ahead of time and come into it. You can save that. And then, you don't have to jump in it right away. But I'm going to jump into this right away just to show you some of the remote production workflows and post-production workflows that go with our live editing and conferencing tool. So again, right now I'm witnessing a live stream that's coming from James' Adobe Premiere. James, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, just to unmute. So I'm here in my Adobe Premiere timeline. At any point, I can just scrub around, move about. I can even make some adjustments and keep it going. So as part of the real-time room, since I'm here in the room, the Premiere session and the live asset is running from my device here. We're all able to sync up, communicate, and if Mo needs to, she can tell me to stop, go back to that, and so on.
Yeah.
So let me scrub through here.
I also want to point out, we also do have a couple of different annotation tools. We have two actually types of annotation tools on this. We have like a laser pointer tool, which is better for like a live session in the sense of if you just want to call something out. That helps you from being like, no, the spot that's over in this corner, this is what I want to talk about. But we also have comments that can be that are not transient. And so especially if you're using a asset that's already been uploaded, and if you want to make a time-stamped comment, so let's say you had the previous version before, and then you want to make this time-stamped comment here, you can now have this comment in this session forever, and for how long the session is, and then you can export this as these comments as a PDF or an Avid TXT, an Avid XML, or also a Resolve VDL. So you can easily take those comments and bring those into the tools, the other tools that you're using on the post-production side. The last thing I do want to show in this live session before we jump to our fourth and final workflow for finishing is there are a few different sync modes. So right now we're in sync with host. This is me. I can drive. If I want to listen to music, I can listen to music. If I want to review the script, I can review the script. But we also know that there's times when you want to open things up to let everybody kind of drive. So we have different sync modes. We have a sync with everyone, which allows anyone to control the timeline. And then we also have an unsynced mode. And so what the unsynced mode does is it allows for people to have moments where they control their own timeline and nobody's timeline affects anyone else's timeline. So this is really great for, if you needed to take a couple moments for people to just kind of like self-explore, get their thoughts together before, at the end, or in the middle of a session, you can put it to unsynced, have everybody kind of review on their own, and then come back to a synced session. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and exit the session. I'm going to, so I can leave the room. And then I'm going to jump right back into the folder so we can talk about our fourth and final remote production workflow, which is our finishing review. And so this is a really, really simple workflow, but it packs a lot of punch. So you can see here that these are HDR tagged and also Dolby Vision tagged. Now, unfortunately, a a consequence of Chrome is that because we have this digital rights management sort of situation with Chrome and Safari. Safari's digital rights management is so powerful, it doesn't let me share my screen if I'm giving someone a demo. And so Safari, it's possible to show Dolby Vision, but it's not possible to share my screen on a demo. So that's why I'm using Chrome, but Dolby Vision is not supported in Chrome. So for a remote finishing workflow, we do support Dolby Vision playback and HDR10. If you are interested in using the Dolby Vision workflow, there are just a couple of rules that are what facilitate the Dolby Vision playback. So essentially what we support is you get if you have an XML and an MOV ProRes file and upload them at the same time with the same name, and then just a little prefix of Dolby to tell us that that's what we're looking at as a Dolby Vision file. It will merge those files together, and that is what is going to make Dolby Vision asset for review. And then when it comes to reviewing Dolby Vision assets, we do have a few features for collaboration and finishing review. For example, we have comments again and collaboration features similarly to in live, but this is more for asynchronous review. Like I said, finishing review. These are time code accurate comments. And again, these are also exportable if you wanted to bring this into a Resolve EDL and Avid EDL and showcase those comments. And then, so it's like I said, it's a very, very simple workflow. You just upload a full-length Dolby Vision file, and then we have various different ways you can share content in Moxion. You can either share one-off content by using a play link, or you can create different folders to create different approval steps or approval groups for review, or you can just simply give someone a notification and send someone into a folder. We also have a screenshotting tool in here, which is really great for review because digital rights management, of course, prevents you from screenshotting because it's so secure. The screenshotting tool allows you to save a screenshot and then put it into a Moxion folder to share that nice and securely. And so when all that content shared, it takes us right back to the very beginning where we started this whole session, and that's into the inbox, where again, any of this content can be viewed on any of our iOS devices or on the Apple TV, which are really great HDR capable devices. So that's just an overview on how Moxion accommodates basically the full remote production and post-production workflows from start to finish, you know, from our live action production workflows all the way into finishing. And that's all I wrote, so.
Well, Mo, thank you very much. I will see if I can grab the screen back. And hopefully, yep. So thank you very much. James, thank you as well. Next up is Mark Moore, Sales Manager for Canada on Live View. And thank you again, Mark, and your team for being sponsors for this evening's event. Mark's bio reads, Mark Moore brings over 20 years of sales experience in the broadcast and media markets, including 10 years with Everett Microsystems as Director of Sales for Asia Pacific, if I'm not mistaken, and more recently developing business globally with new verticals such as corporate AV, defense, and live sports production. Mark also spent several years with Japan manufacturers Media Links, where he helped develop their presence in North America, Europe, and Mark's area of expertise includes video transports, compression, IP, and cloud-based solutions. So Mark, take her away.
Thanks very much. I think my bio was about the middle between the three of us, so maybe
that's correct. That's correct.
Just right. So I'm going to.
I'll see if you can steal it.
make sure I've got my audio settings. And I just wanted to mention that the last presentation, after I saw the live shot of Auckland, New Zealand, I went into a bit of dreamland because we're sitting around with 50 centimeters of snow. So that was actually nice to see. Thank you, James. So I'm going to talk about live view and what we view as REMI production or remote production, the new production workflow model. Make sure that I can navigate here. 1 second.
Yeah, your screen is up.
Okay, yep, there we go. So I'm actually going to break it down, simplify it a little bit, but I won't spend too much time on it. But what is REMI? Who uses it? Why we use it? What are the benefits? I'll talk a little bit about how LiveView approaches remote production and REMI. I have a couple of case studies, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about air control, which is a new solution that we have for the orchestration of a production event, particularly in our current environment where people are all over the place, not necessarily in one location. So as most of us know, REMI, remote production, at-home production, remote integration model, whatever you call it, allows live content to be streamed from a remote location anywhere in the world and uses your existing studio control room to do the switching, graphics, audio replay, etc. All of the things that you would do normally if you had a production truck on site. I think the only difference here is in the last couple of years, remote location where there is nobody and your studio control room where there's nobody. So everybody is at home, different locations. So that's the real challenge now with remote production. So who uses REMI? Of course, in our customer base, news use it. We do extreme production where we have events where you're moving all over the place. A lot of the Spartan, for example, a lot of racing, motocross racing, that type of thing. Sports, golf is a big user of remote production. Special events where you have a concert or some on-location event. And of course, even in education, they're using REMI. So with a live production, there's different ways of looking at it. In the past, you would perhaps hire a third-party production company. You have the cost of a truck with all the equipment. You have your producers, your technical director, audio, graphics, your cameraman, the cost of travel and expenses of bringing those people to the event. Another way of approaching it would be SAT transmission. So you have the SAT truck, which has a cost to it. You have the actual time, the satellite time that you have to book, and the camera operators and all the local staff, all the cost involved. So really with remote production, you're looking at lowering those costs and having everything back at home, so you don't have to ship equipment. You can limit the number of people that you're bringing on site, and just have the essential, basically the equipment that's going to backhaul all of your feeds and take care of it at home. So we estimate that you're saving up to 70% of costs by doing REMI. So the old way is you have your flyaway kits. Again, you have the shipping and travel costs. You have to send that crew. Then you've got to consider your connectivity, Ethernet and fiber costs, running cable through the venue. There's potential for damaged gear, lost gear, all of the on-site and off-site IT considerations, just to get the production up and running. So, that translates into burning a lot of cash. We use US dollars here because Canadian dollars are made of plastic, so we can't burn those. So really the benefits of REMI are the costs. As I said, we estimate there's about a 70% savings on your production costs by using REMI, particularly with a LiveView solution. And what that looks like, and actually what I'll do is just give you a quick overview in case you're not familiar with LiveView. Originally we're known as the backpack company. So as news gathering went from SNG trucks to using bonded cellular to bring news back to production facilities and to news outlets, we were really the first involved in this, and we got known as the pioneers in IP video using bonded cellular. As we grew, we found that this technology works in other environments like sports production and so on. So to this day, since 2006, we have about 4,000 customers, over 20,000 of our units deployed. We do over 21 million annual live sessions, and that relates into a lot of data. So about 964 terabytes of data monthly that we transmit. And just quickly, just to give you an idea of our platform. So on the left side here, we have all of our transmitter systems. So from the LU800, LU600, these are have 6 SIMs in them. You can bond cellular. They also do Ethernet. Whatever connectivity you have, we use something called least cost bonding. So it will automatically figure out the cheapest way of transmitting. So you're not necessarily using only data from your cellular connections, but also leveraging Ethernet or any hardwired connectivity that's in the facility or where you are. We have different form factors. So we have the LU300, which is a smaller form factor, the Solo, which is for streaming. So it will stream directly into something like Facebook or YouTube. And then we have like our LU Smart, which is a smartphone app. So you can actually go live using your camera on your smartphone. Extender just gives you extra connectivity when you're in a very high congested area. We have contribution encoders, so pretty much the same idea. H.264 and HEVC encoders that don't have the modems built in. And then of course on the receive side, we have different flavors of decoders, whether that be a 1-rack 4-port decoder that will take 4 feeds in, cloud servers as well. And then on the right side, we have our IP solution. So we do things like LiveView Matrix, which enables a distribution platform for anyone that has a LiveView decoder out there, and you have the right permissions. You can receive feeds. You can put feeds up on this matrix, and anyone that has a decoder can pull those down. So a good example of that is with the Chauvin trial just over the summer in the US. We had all those feeds from the courtrooms going into the newsroom, put those up on the matrix. We had customers all over the world that were pulling those feeds down. We do things like video return so that people in the field can do things like receive their the graphics, the video return from program. We do audio connect, so that's dual IFB, and things like tally light, IP pipe, where we can control PTZ cameras remotely. So the high-level ecosystem on the left, you would have whatever transmitter you decide to use that will use the least cost bonding, so you can connect over different networks, whether that be mobile networks, Wi-Fi, satellite, Ethernet. We will decode either on-prem or in the cloud, and then we have different distribution models where it's either over to a CDN, into a broadcast environment, or into the LiveView matrix. So this is my one and only product slide. This is the LU800, which is what we're using really for the remote production systems that we're building. So this unit has 4 camera inputs, so 4 SDI inputs, and that will transmit those 4 inputs over our network, whether that's mobile or Ethernet. And those are discrete channels as well. So those are 4 discrete encodes that are completely synced. So, when you're bringing in those feeds, you don't have to worry about sync. You don't have to worry about video quality. It's up to 70 megabits of transmission with 16 channels of audio. So just getting into the workflows of how we're doing REMI, with a single LU800, as you can see, in this case, you've got 4 talents, 4 cameras going into the LU800, and then that will transmit back to the TV station. So you've got fully synced cameras, high quality, high bit rate, and there's different modes of sending that back, whether you want to use the switcher on the screen and select which video you want to send back, or you can send the whole mosaic back as well. Larger productions where we might have cameras on in an arena, and you have your talent, you can use multiple LU800s and bring those feeds back to your production facility. We also have different kind of production tools. So rather than having to bring, third-party equipment for different pieces of the remote production puzzle, we enable you to have those built into the whole system. So that's things like video return. So you have teleprompter, for example, easy communication. So we have 2 channels, bidirectional IFB. We also control tally. So all that can be integrated into our system rather than having to worry about different pieces to put together. So I'll jump into case studies. We recently worked with one of our partners in the US for the Rocky IV, I guess it was the director's cut of the most recent Rocky IV. So we used a couple of our LU800s with our Pro 4 license, which enables basically 4 cameras to transmit, and then our quad servers at the receive end. So in Philadelphia, we had basically we had the director, we had a 20-minute pre-show from Philadelphia, followed by a 25-minute Q&A session. So you had the screenwriter director, Sylvester Stallone. You also had Paulie there, if you remember him. So they basically had the pre and post show in Philadelphia, and then they streamed the actual film out to 700 theaters across the US. Basically, you've got directors, producers in Philadelphia. The production facility was in Las Vegas, so we streamed everything back to Las Vegas. We also had a raw expression operator in Chicago. So looking at these pictures here, you've got the camera operators on the top right. If you look closely, you can see 2 LU800s. This is inside the truck. So you had your directors and everybody inside the truck on the Philly side. And then back in Las Vegas, in the production facility, you had your technical directors and everybody preparing that for uplink. So everything was done via the satellite truck uplink. And as I said, that was 700 theaters. So the pre-show, the post-show, so people would go into those theaters, they would see that live event, and then they would watch the movie. The next one is an interesting event that we did in Hawaii, and I can stop talking and just actually press play on this, and you can watch the video. Hopefully this will work out okay.
The Molokai Hoi is the world's oldest 6-man outrigger canoe race, 67 years. It's the World Championships. This is where crews from all over the world come to find out how good they are. It's 41 miles from the island of Molokai across the Kaiwi Channel to the island of Oahu. About 10 years ago, the president of the organization came to us and they said they would really like us to try and do this live. This was in a time where 4G didn't exist. About 3 years after that, the technology became better. We're partners with Time Warner Cable, and that was when we did the first real live TV broadcast from the channel. This year, we're partnering up with Live View Technologies to see what their equipment can do in the channel. You know, adaptive bitrate, 4G technologies, bonding up to 12 modems into one feed. It's just, we're in the middle of the ocean, we're in the middle of nowhere, and we're pulling signals where other people cannot even use their cell phone. This race is broadcast live in Hawaii. It is rebroadcast live in Tahiti. It's a worldwide webcast. It's a social media cast. The viewership for this race is tremendous.
Our role with Ocean Paddler is to manage all of those bonded cell connections from the start line, the finish line, all the way through the race.
The big challenge with this particular show is that the boats themselves, there's a lot of waves out there, there's a lot of motion and movement. We wanted to make it as seamless as possible for them. So we control everything in the control room.
I, on the field, don't have to worry about too much. I can just plug it in, turn it on. I don't have to try to figure out and troubleshoot problems. Like, they're able to work on it while I'm concentrating on getting the shot down here.
This is one of the great things about LU Central, LiveView's control platform, is that we can talk to all those remote units from a single control location, which means that we don't have to have a lot of tech personnel out in the field. LiveView's reliable transport technology, the LRT, has been a game changer. Regardless of how data conditions fluctuate, you know that the reliability of your signal is always going to be top-notch. And the support that we receive 24/7 from LiveView is absolutely stellar. That's been something that's been a lifesaver for us.
You've had many people out there in the community that have often wondered what actually happens during a channel. The next thing to experiencing it is seeing it live, and because of TV, through social media, you can actually feel it and get a sense of the challenge that exists, and it's just broadened the involvement in the sport far beyond just the paddler.
Now we get to bring more people in, more people can appreciate it, more people can see paddlers from all over the world, their families too, get to be a part of this as well. And so that inclusion, I think, is a beautiful thing.
Having Live View on our side this year is tremendous, and we're driving the Ferrari of the industry.
Got out of that. Thank you for watching that. Hopefully that's you were able to see that okay. I realized that when you check the Q&A, it paused the video, so sorry about that. So really, that's a great example of how far our technology has come. And you know, as I said, we've gone from you know, news gathering to being able to do these kind of extreme events. In fact, today we're in Parker, Arizona, doing desert racing. There's these trucks are racing across the desert in the middle of nowhere, and they're using our technology for that. So I just wanted to finish off with something quite unique that came out of the pandemic. Something that we developed based on our customer needs, which is something called air control. And you know, we found with remote production, the real challenge is people are just not in, you know, on site anymore. So everyone's working from home. Of course, you know, in the days before COVID, before a show starts, you've got your producer checking with the talent, making sure that everything is good to go. Suddenly, you know, you've got to worry about remote guests. You've got your people in the field, making sure that IFB is working. So, you know, with that, it's all quite simple. It's a little complicated, but at least it's manageable. And of course, with COVID, suddenly you've got everybody working from home. Sometimes you have, people with, internet connections that are not very stable. So it was a real challenge. And so we decided that we would come up with a platform allowed to make this simpler. And really what it is an orchestration system that takes all of the sort of bowl of soup of all the technology, prosumer and consumer technology, and put it into one orchestration system. So that's what we're calling air control. And it ties pretty much the people together. So basically the way it works is, you would set this up and you would send out a link to say your guest. So on the left, you've got a guest. This is what he would see on his computer screen. He would see the program feed. He would see his feed. For the anchors, this is what they would see. They would see the program feed. They would see their guests. They would have the ability to talk to their directors. Instead of waving at the camera hoping someone would see them, they can actually communicate with them, and they would have their teleprompter there as well. For the producer or the MCR, you would have a view of everything. So down below on the left, you have all of your technical staff, so you can communicate with them. So they might be at home, they might be in the facility, you can talk and listen. Over on the right side, you would have all your on-air talent, so you can communicate with them. And then we would have our guests. So you would have isolated guests that are lined up, ready to go on air. We can create green rooms so that guests that need to communicate with each other can do that before they're on air. And then ready for air. So you would bring them up to ready for air, and of course, bring them on. You've got your program feeds, any feeds that you have coming in that you need to switch to are all there. So it's really an orchestration platform to make remote production possible in the environment that we have today. And really, just like we've heard tonight, a lot of these technologies are, started with COVID, but it's really the way things are going. I mean, these are just really, COVID is really just an accelerator of the way things are going. So we don't see this as a short-term fix. Customers are embracing this for the way they're going to do their day-to-day productions. So just to give you an overview, this is not a production tool. Really, it's all about orchestrating the moving parts and the guests and the reporters and the anchors to go live into a production environment. So it really sits in front of your existing production environment. This is just a little bit of a spaghetti diagram, but on the left you have your streaming clients. So that would be your guests or your anchors. Those feeds would go into your live view decoder. That would give you SDI or NDI into your production environment, and then your program would go back out to a return server and back into your overall control system. So we're seeing this, the whole remote production solution is driving forward and a lot of adaptation, but the real challenge has been around orchestrating all the moving parts. So this is something that we've come up with in the last year to help make that a simpler process. So that's pretty much all I have for my presentation. So I will.
Thank you, Mark. What I might do is I'm going to steal the screen back again, if I may. Make sure I get the right one. And we're now at the point for questions. And Roy, I don't know whether we have. I think I saw 2 questions in the question box. I realized I'm not a avid Zoom user or Zoom webinar user, but I noticed that as a co-host, I'm not allowed to ask a question. So I don't know that there's a way to do that, but I will wait till the questions are read, and if there's still time, I will pop one as well, if I may.
All right. Yeah, currently the Toronto Maple Leafs have scored more goals this evening than there are questions in the question Q&A box. But thank you to Anthony Singh for a couple of questions. One to Dennis. Does SohoNet lease dedicated switches and fibers from telcos for their dedicated and isolated network?
Fibers, yes. As mentioned before, we work with about 52 providers on a global basis, and we procure fiber from them normally on a multi-year basis, sometimes 1 year, sometimes up to 5 years. Working on a project right now for 9 years for a new studio. On the switches, we purchase those, and then we provide those as part of a managed service, which is nice because in the event if the switch broke, it's replaced at no additional charge by us. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. We'll let Anthony
Okay.
type in if he has a follow-up. But
Okay.
yes, he just affirmed from Anthony. That's his question.
Okay,
Thank you,
good.
Dennis.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, and another one from Anthony for Mark. Will bonded modem technology still be required for 5G cellular networks?
Yeah, we believe so. I mean, all of our products now are supporting 5G. You know, people do say, you know, with 5G there's enough bandwidth that you wouldn't need bonded, but we actually see that there's more and more demand for higher bit rate and 4K and things like this. So and multiple, you know, as we're doing multiple camera feeds. So we definitely see 5G as a technology that will work well with bonded cellular.
Excellent, thank you.
Can I jump in here, Roy?
You may, yes.
So my question is, and Mark, you touched upon it, that most of the product that you talked about wasn't really COVID driven, but it was enhanced. And you had mentioned that things are not likely going to change and people are going to continue on this workflow. I'm just wondering from everybody, Mo and Dennis and Mark, you as well, is the situation that we find ourselves in working remotely. Are you working on other applications because now work from home or working remotely or having tool sets that allow people to see things when they want to see it now is mainstream? Will there be focus on that from each of your company standpoints?
I can jump in if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the one thing that comes to mind is as long as I've been doing this, there's always been a push for doing more for less, and I think that's always the theme. You know, our customers are always looking to do you know, leverage technology to save money and do more with it. And I think you know, COVID really was an accelerant for things that are just coming down the pipe anyway, and I think everyone agrees with that. So, you know, a lot of the remote production that I showed may not be specifically for the COVID reasons, but some of the things that we've done to adapt to that, like the fact that people are working from home and it's probably a permanent thing. You know, we're looking at hybrid solutions where you have to accept that people are going to be working remotely, and part of the technology that we've come up with is the challenges that we faced with the, you know, putting the pieces all together. So you know, if you watch the news or any live television programs in the last year, sometimes you whinge at the quality of the video and the audio and the way that people are setting their cameras up on live television. So we realize that those are the things that we have to bring back and say, hey, this is broadcast television. It has to be professional. It has to look good. And so we find that those are the opportunities to find improvement.
I can also answer. I think probably the biggest area in terms of working from home that I believe Dennis said something similar in terms of how SohoNet has been, before pre-COVID, and Moxion is the same. It was originally more to facilitate, our founding team is in New Zealand. They were working with LA, more about facilitating cross time zone and world types of workflows, but obviously COVID has accelerated it. But, Mark, similar to a point, people are working from home, and I feel the way Moxion's really facilitated and accommodated that is in our security, the types of security features that we have specifically for things like viewing content. No, we have recently with, our Playlinks features, we just recently released things around IP restrictions and view count restrictions, and just things to make people feel better about sending, high tier 1 productions out for review in a situation where they can't actually control the location. So I would say that's probably the adjustments we've made around security are probably the things that we've had the most related to people working from home. And the other has been honestly on the remote finishing workflow side of things. As I mentioned, there's only certain devices that are HDR capable and Dolby Vision capable. And so we have a couple of cool features, and now I'm regretting that I didn't show off. But number one, there's a feature that for the finishing workflow that allows you to set brightness settings ahead of time if you're the colorist to match your monitor. And so then anybody viewing on a device can just toggle a toggle, and then their brightness settings on their iOS device, like their iPad or iPhone, will match what the colorist intended, and it will override their iPad settings. So, and then the other thing too, because this came directly from customer feedback, and we do a lot of, we listen to our customers super closely and have a really direct feedback loop between our customers and our product. But, it's funny because some of the customers that we've had have been like, oh man, one of the things that's like really frustrating is, we'll send this out for review and someone will make a color comment and we don't actually know if they viewed an SDR or HDR or something like that. So one of the things that we put in place to accommodate that is when you make a comment in Moxion, you can actually see if it's SDR or HDR and what resolution they're viewing in. So that way, if somebody just doesn't follow the instructions, since everybody's kind of working from home and you kind of have to like wrangle cats a little bit remotely, you can actually see what they're viewing in. So you can, use that to decide whether or not you're going to take that comment to heart or not. And then the second part of that is also on the flips on that HDR finishing review workflow and comments and things, is people will leave comments on SDR and it was an auto-derived SDR. They don't want them to give feedback on the SDR at all. It's like a graded HDR that they want comments on. So there's also an ability to force HDR viewing. So therefore, again, when you're in an unregulated situation where you're kind of putting this content out in the wild and, maybe provisioning people with devices, but you can't, guarantee they're going to watch on these devices. At least you can lock it in product to be like, okay, nothing else is going to play unless this person is watching in HDR. So I would say that those are kind of like the features that we've put in place in this new world of really being able to manage what people's experience is like and kind of facilitate those workflows from a product perspective.
Roy, Dennis here, two quick things. One thing we've done from a product perspective, I hinted at it before, we've just soft launched a new product which brings HDR reviews for the first time over just regular plain old internet. You don't need our network to do it. And so that's a big step forward in terms of helping people who are working from home to do still stay involved in HDR workflows that their studios are working on. And the second thing is it's commercial. For years, when we've sold service, whether it's internet, social media network, public cloud access, or point-to-point, or even long haul, to carry files across the country or overseas, those were all separate products. And about 3 months ago, we introduced something that really helps studios who have very changing workflow patterns, which is very common since COVID restrictions had eased and people started coming back to work, and then Omicron came, and then they started working at home again. And we've seen a lot of our customers call and say, I got enough internet, you can tone it down, or no, I need more. And in the past, we used to charge additional for those bursts. And now what we've done, we've got a new offering called multi-port, where we just sell you a port, and then you can put over that port whatever you want in any mix that you want. So you can have any mix of internet and access to AWS and a point-to-point. And if next month you get a project and it's a VFX project, and you've got a lot more payloads to push up into Amazon, then you can, for no additional charge, you just change the configuration. We never did that before. And we're doing it because the volatility in changing workflows has never been greater since COVID. They weren't predictable in the past, but they were slightly more predictable. So it's two things: improve products, and secondly, make the commercials more friction-free for customers. I think everybody deserves it, because nobody can predict this year, what the workflows will be with any great certainty.
Thank you. Are there any more questions, Roy?
No, that's everything, Tony.
Okay. Well, I'm all questioned out. Let me. I will move my slide deck ahead if I can find the little button. There we go. So let me thank everybody for participating in our first of the year January meeting. Dennis, Mo, and Mark, and James as well. So thank you very much. Very informative. In closing, let me just, if I may, a couple of things. A recording has been made for tonight's meeting, so it will be available on our YouTube channel after Peter does some cleanup. Future meetings, our February meeting, which is on the, actually I got that wrong. It is the 15th, not the 9th. Not sure why I've got the 15th in there. It's a student focused, but you'll get a notice about this. It's student focused. There's a myriad of topics that we will be addressing that evening. March the 15th, and now I'm questioning all my dates here. Virtual productions. April is standards update. May is an NAB wrap up. NAB, that's going to be a good one. The fact that it's been 2 years, has it been, that it's not been in an event. And June, we're still working on June. It's still out there, so we're working on what that might be, and we're hoping that it will be a face-to-face. So up until May will be virtual, and we're hoping June will be a face-to-face event. And pizza. Every January and February we canvass people if they want to become part of the SMPTE organization at the Toronto level and become a board member. Do let us know. That's how we bring on these very interesting meetings. There's a bunch of us that have been at this for a while, and we always like to get new people with new ideas. So, if you're thinking about wanting to get get introduced to SMPTE Toronto at the board level, do send us a note. You can send one to simptetoronto@outlook.com and include you in the election process. Up-to-date information you can find at our website, and if you want to become a friend, meaning getting email notifications from the Toronto section, that's the URL, and it'll take you to a page where you can sign on to become a friend. And that's it for me. I'm going to close the evening. It is due time. So again, still, because we're still in that same health environment, be well, be safe, and that's a wrap. Thanks very much, everybody, and we will see you in February.